Chapter 49. Wireless Jeff. Sunday, July 26th, 2308. Jeff set himself up on the couch in front of the TV. From the look on his face, Ash could tell he wanted to talk. Finished with the Mossberg, she sat next to her brother on the couch. His eyes were vacantly glued to the dark screen. "What do you want to watch?" she asked. His answer came quietly, almost hollow. "I don't want to watch anything." "I saw what happened to Dad," Jeff said. "You thought I didn't, but I did. And I heard Mom scream before we even got very far from the house." "You heard her?" "Didn't you?" Jeff asked. "I wasn't sure. I was running," Ash said. "You were pulling me really hard. Sorry." "It's okay." He looked her in the eye. "Who is that woman?" "Captain Snow? She looks like her and Mom could be sisters." "Yeah, they sure do," Ashley said. "Do you think what Major Ross said is true? Mr. Dunkirk killed those cops?" Jeff asked. "Bobby thought so. He said it was because of the Micronics thing." "How did he know about it?" Jeff asked. "He was there," Ashley said. She pulled the rectangle out of her pocket and held it up. "Do you know what Dad could do with this?" she asked, setting it on the table in front of them. Jeff picked it up. For a moment he closed his eyes. Then he opened them again and spoke. He could use it to talk with the computers, directly, with his brain. He invented it. That's why they're after him. That's why they killed him. Ashley took a breath. Why didn't he just give it to them? He tried to. That's how you got it. A lot of people really didn't want it. They said it killed people. Sometimes the first time they touched it, they died. And then there was a big explosion in the desert. Remember what happened when it fell? Remember how everything was frozen? Did you think it would kill me? Jeff asked. Ashley shook her head. It's just a chunk of metal. Until you hit the button and pop out the knife, you can't hurt yourself with it. "What do you see when you pick it up?" Jeff asked. "What do you mean?" Ashley said. "I just see it in my hand." "I don't know what it is, but it's not a knife. Who told you that?" Ashley didn't answer. "You don't see anything when you hold it?" Jeff asked. "Hit the button," Ash said. "It's a knife." "It's a power button, but it doesn't turn it on. Contact turns it on." "Hit the button," Ashley said again. Jeff pressed down on the button. Nothing happened. He pressed again. Still nothing. "Doesn't do anything." "You're not pressing hard enough," Ashley said, holding out her hand. Jeff gave her the metal rectangle. Ashley pressed the button, hard, with her thumb, and with a loud crack, the black metal blade snapped out. "Damn," Jeff said with mock amusement. "It's probably not even sharp." He reached for the blade. Ashley let him take it from her. Jeff ran the knife over the back of his forearm and watched as the blade shaved all the short hair from his arm. "Whoa," he said. "Be careful with it," Ashley said. Okay, but that's nothing. Nothing at all compared to what it can do. Listen, did you know all the cameras have a dormant network I.O.? Jeff set the knife on the table. "I.O.?" Ashley asked. She picked up the dark blade and hit the button again, retracting the edge. "In, out. And okay, what about this?" Jeff closed his eyes and paused for a moment. The video stream on the table across from the couch clicked on. The monitor changed streams until arriving on one of Jeff's favorite cartoons. A moment later, the lights in the room clicked off. Then, in truly immature fashion, the lights clicked on and off over and over and over again. "Okay, I get it," Ashley said. Jeff smiled and opened his eyes. "Can you turn the lights back on now?" Ashley asked. Laughing, Jeff got up and crossed the room, switching on the lights. "Why walk? Why not just think it?" Ash asked. I don't know. It's easy to get out, but it takes a while to get back inside the systems." Ashley stared at her little brother. "What?" he asked. "What do you see?" "It's like having a computer in your head," Jeff answered. "Can you see it right now?" Ashley asked, holding the device. "No." Jeff looked at the interface in his sister's hand. "Do you have to be holding it?" she asked. "I don't know. Let's see." Jeff closed his eyes. The lights went off. "So no," Ashley said. In the dark room, illuminated only by the flickering video screen, Jeff opened his eyes. "You have to concentrate." Ashley set it back on the table. "You can have it. I want to try something." Jeff closed his eyes. A moment later he said, "Okay, I'm in. I want you to take it way over there." Jeff pointed to the furthest part of the basement. "Okay," Ashley answered. She picked up the device and carried it across the basement. She didn't rush. She walked kind of slowly, prepared to stop whenever Jeff might object, but he didn't. When she set the device down, Jeffrey screamed and jumped up. Ashley ran back over to him, the device forgotten. Jeff was gasping for breath and looked panicked. "Are you okay?" she whispered. "I'm okay," he replied. "What happened?" he asked. "I just set it down," Ash answered. "Wow, it did not like that. Where is it?" he asked. Ash led her brother back to the device. He picked it up and handed it to her. "You can hold on to it," she said. "No, it's yours. I can use it, but you have to carry it," he said. "Whatever." Ash returned the amplifier to her pocket. Jeff staggered and rubbed his head. "Man." "What's wrong?" Ashley asked. "Nothing, it's—" Paused to catch his breath. "Hold on. When you're holding it, damn, it's strong. The signal is so strong, but—" "Why don't you carry it?" Ashley asked. "Are you kidding? No way. It likes you tons better," he said, smiling. Ashley got nothing more out of him about it. She flipped through bad video streams while Jeff lay on the couch next to her, eyes closed but never asleep. Sunday evening, July 27th, 2308. As Van Kalt fell through the night sky, he took advantage of the opportunity to smile. Boxes of meaningless records streamed past like shooting stars burning up in orbit. Everything about the past 24 hours had kept him on his toes. He was honestly glad Stanwood had left him alone for most of the time. Using the Metacron, he was never at a loss for intellectually stimulating activity. When they boarded the Midway, Van Kalt had kept their personal transport nearby and idling, ignoring the staff's invitation to take advantage of the nearby docking branches. Now he was thankful for his obsessively paranoid and suspicious nature. Using the Metacron, Van Kalt piloted the car while simultaneously plunging toward Earth at 120 miles an hour. He activated the side hatch and swung the vehicle under the director. Van Kalt caught his supervisor with the anti-gravity car and then set about to rescuing himself. The Metacron was in his hand as he entered the car and set his feet on the deck. He took a deep breath as the hatch closed. He felt his gravity return and the vehicle pulled out of its dive-bomb maneuver and set a course for the west coast. Stanwood was sprawled across the back seat, his legs and arms extended, clutching the seat and floor as if it could in some way help him. Van Kalt leaned into the turn, smiling wryly. Stanwood noticed the amplifier in Van Kalt's right hand. Van Kalt looked Stanwood in the eye and asked, "You still want to chase down Henry Charles Porter and Johnny Wyndham?" "No, I don't think so." Stanwood paused. "So you did take it from him?" "Of course I did," Van Kalt replied. "I'm glad." "You are?" "It's all part of the plan," Stanwood said. Van Kalt laughed hard and long. "The plan, huh? I still have one more ace up my sleeve. One more card to play." "We're not done yet," Stanwood answered. "What makes me laugh is how a dead guy still has you chasing your tail." Van Kalt took the pilot's chair and leaned back, chuckling as he closed his eyes. Ashley's Journal, Monday, July 27th, 2308. When I woke up this morning, I checked the security feeds, like Ross said. Then I spent an hour in the shower and the bathroom. I still haven't seen any signs of life from Freebird. A couple years ago, Jeff had wanted to go on a camping trip with his class, and when it came time to go, Mom was crying. Jeff was only like 5, and this was his first night away from home. He said, "Don't cry, Mom. I need to be a free bird." I laughed my ass off. Mom and Dad laughed too, but for a whole year I don't think I called him Jeff once. Mom had to outlaw it, or I'd probably still be calling him Freebird today. Ashley found Ross in the kitchen, preparing a generous breakfast. "I let you guys sleep in today. Tomorrow that stops." Ross set a cup of juice and a few slices of fruit before her. "I have to run a bunch of errands, so today is the last day of the rest of your old life." "And that means what exactly?" Ashley asked. "I don't know. Eat cereal, watch cartoons, keep the shotgun in the brace, and keep the line tied to the knob until I call you." "Till you call me? Why don't you just knock?" "I had a buddy who knocked once. It was just enough to knock the line off the knob and cut him in half. Don't ever knock. If you have to knock, whenever you do knock on a door, stand off to the side. That way he would have maybe just lost his hand. You can always get a new hand." Ross gave Ashley a phone. "There's one number programmed into this. Emergency use only. Don't even open it unless it rings. You got me?" Ashley nodded, picked up the phone and looked at it. Ross finished with the pancakes and set a short stack in front of her. "Where's your brother?" he asked. "Sleeping. Guess yesterday was a lot for him." "You're probably right." Ross rinsed a few dishes and piled a few others. "I have to go. Lots to do. Make sure he eats, yeah?" Ashley nodded. Ross came around from the back of the small kitchen counter and patted Ashley's shoulder. It's gonna be okay. Ashley smiled, but something dangerous in her eyes made Ross pause. What? He asked. It is gonna be okay, Ashley said. I can just feel it. She took a bite of her pancakes, grinning. Ross laughed. Chapter 50. The Wolf Pack. Monday morning, July 27th, 2308. Von Kalt sat in the chair reserved for bodyguards and flunkies, while Stanwood took the seat in front of Senator Miller's desk. On the far left of the room, a sheet of plywood filled the space where one of the floor-to-ceiling windows had been knocked out. Stanwood noticed but said nothing. What can I do for you, Joe? Miller didn't even bother to look away from his monitor. He held the stylus before the screen, occasionally tapping or dragging one section or another. I presume you've kept abreast of events? Stanwood asked. Somewhat. Miller tapped the screen with the stylus, like some kind of digitally interested bird. If there's something specific you'd like to address, please cut to the chase. I don't have a lot of time. The warrants on Fox's properties were served, Stanwood stated. Ah, yes. The committee's greatly looking forward to putting several of his technologies on the fast track. I can't wait to hear about it. Well, sir, that's why I'm here. This doesn't sound good at all. Miller put the stylus down and clicked off the display. He held up his hand. Let me stop you before you begin, Director. You wouldn't believe what happened while I was out at lunch the other day. The window, that one, Miller pointed at the sheet of plywood. It just blew out all of a sudden. And then the security team says my files, my personal belongings, everything, just started flying around the room. Sounds kinda crazy, doesn't it? It is a problem, sir. Obviously. Otherwise you would not be here, would you? Stanwood cleared his throat. We served over 70 warrants for properties belonging to or even associated with Dr. Andrew Fox. Not one of the addresses yielded anything of note. Not one? Are you freaking kidding me? Miller was on his feet. We spent years accumulating that data. There was not one false lead in the bunch. He was screaming. His face had grown beet red. What kind of incompetent morons did you put on this job? Do you realize your life is on the line? He was leaning all the way across his desk, his index finger in Stanwood's face. You let these idiots smash up my office. You let them make fools of both of us. Do I have to tell you how much hot water you were in right now? Miller paused to catch his breath. We are talking treason. The senator withdrew to his plush leather chair and took a moment to adjust himself. This is treason, Joseph. You killed one of the country's leading scientists, and I will see that you are prosecuted for murder in the first degree. Von Kalt suspected that years ago, while Stanwood was still new to the government, this sort of outburst might have unsettled or even frightened him. But Von Kalt certainly wasn't impressed. These sort of idiots get people killed. He wondered how Stanwood had tolerated the buffoon for so long. It must have been 8 long years. I have a plan, sir. Stanwood sounded as cool as could be. Von Kalt had heard that kind of cool before. I'd be more than happy to share it with you, but I understand if you're a busy man. Von Kalt placed the vocal pattern, tonal nuances, and implications. He smiled. Stanwood was biting Fox, imitating his personal speaking style. Miller blinked. Stanwood read this as an invitation to continue. We know that Fox had conspirators, inside the highest levels of the Republic. So Fox is now dead. We are in control. You don't seem very... It was Stanwood's turn to get loud. We are in control. The man was hypnotic. Miller calmed down. Von Kalt was impressed. We will put the word out that we are in possession of Fox's research, and that it is being put under lock and key for further consideration. In this, we show our humility and our ambition not to become tyrants. Stanwood paused. Miller waited. We will let our enemies come to us, curious to see what we do or do not know. Their own curiosity will undo them. Instead of walking into their traps, we will make some of our own. So we turn it around on them. Okay, I like that, Miller said. Good, because this is where you come in, sir. How's that? We have 2 options. The first one is rather direct, but requires a significant sacrifice on your part. Let's hear it, Miller sounded intrigued. Well, as we can see, our enemy clearly has you in their crosshairs. We can exploit that. Stanwood gestured to the plywood sheet. Miller cocked his head to the side. If you were to be heard bragging about the Fox operations, I think it might accelerate some sort of traceable reaction. You're talking about using me as bait. If you want to be crass about it, I suppose that's accurate. Miller snorted. I do have another idea, one that requires significantly less of a contribution on the part of your office. That already sounds better. Usually I'm the one asking for contributions. I need the wolf pack. I'm afraid that's completely out of the question. Why would you ask me that? Why would you even suggest that? What is wrong with you? You really must be desperate. Sir, I was just violently depressurized from 30,000 feet. Earlier this week I activated the full forces of Scotland Yard to subdue a 92-year-old curmudgeon who thoroughly enjoyed it and later lectured me on the evils of the Republic. After shooting my childhood friend in the forehead, I played golf with his ghost of Christmas future and shared war stories about our childhood. There's not a lot you can say or do that would surprise me, short of giving me what I ask for and sharing a drink from the bottle in your bottom drawer. You really think this will work, Joe? Wouldn't be here if I didn't, sir. It would be a lot easier to garner support if you had some kind of evidence. I completely agree, Senator. How long have you known me? Your whole career, of course. Have I ever steered you wrong, sir? Of course not. What's your point? My point is, don't I have something in the bank with you? Was all my time worth nothing? Don't you trust me at all? That is a one-time ploy, my friend. Stanwood said nothing. Miller smiled. You're usually so resourceful with this kind of thing. One-time ploy, huh? The wolf pack would not exist without the work I did for you. Illegal work, I might add. The list of illegal things I've done while working for this office could choke a team of Clydesdales. This is not a one-time ploy, sir. I only came here as a courtesy. I can get to Bergstrom on my own. I simply thought you might appreciate the opportunity to give your blessing on this endeavor. Our enemy, in this case, is smart and cunning. He knows how to cover his tracks, and we're not going to get what we want without some leverage. What did you have in mind? Something simple, something direct. It seems as if you went after one of those other fellows, Porter or Wyndham. They might have something valuable. That certainly is an option we can keep on the back burner, sir, but not the sort of immediate target I had in mind. All right, Joe. I'm thinking maybe it's time to bring Dr. Bergstrom and his wolf pack into the loop. What do you say? Thank you, Mr. Senator. Miller activated his communications terminal and called up Cedric. Dr. Bergstrom's system answered and asked if the senator would like to leave a message. Cedric, this is Senator Miller. I'm going to be sending Joseph to see you. He's got a project I think you could really help out with. Thanks. Miller turned the terminal off. Probably just got his hands full. Stanwood nodded. Well, regardless, if you want to get right to it, he's out on D13, Angel City. I'll forward you the docking codes. Thank you, Senator. Would you take some water? Some aqua vitae. What the hell, it's 6 o'clock somewhere. Miller pulled out the bottle of Connemara and 2 glasses. Chapter 51, Feedback Loop. Monday, July 29th, 2308. After eating, Ashley found a vacant space in the basement to stretch and do her exercises. The maintenance level / basement beneath the garage hadn't been wired as there was little point. It was almost entirely self-contained. There was one entrance, and despite some separation walls, it was open and empty. When Ashley finally returned to the room she was sharing with her brother, she found him still stretched out on the couch. Jeff, you missed breakfast. There are pancakes up there if you want 'em. Pretty good. Ash, how's it going? Jeff's voice was calm, but distracted. Ashley looked over at her brother, lying on his back, eyes closed. What's the matter with you? Aren't you getting up today? I've been up, he said. With his eyes closed, Jeff maneuvered into a sitting position, letting the blanket cover his legs. Ashley walked around the couch. What? You're serious? Jeff reached out, picked up the black metal rectangle, and flawlessly tossed it to his sister, eyes closed, like some kind of blind ninja. Ashley remained silent until he opened his eyes. Jeff smiled at her. Can you show me how? She asked. It's easy. Here, sit down. Jeff nodded. Ashley sat next to him, holding the device in her hands. Close your eyes and imagine a blank vid screen. Okay, Ashley said, her eyes closed. First, you just see blank space. Then one word is going to come up. Ashley waited for a few moments. What word? Just relax and wait for it, Jeff answered. They both waited. Then Ashley caught her breath. Micronics. That's its name, Jeff said. Its name? She asked. Tell it your name. How? Just imagine the letters, and then it opens an operating system. Ashley was quiet for a few moments. Then it appeared, a screen in her head, filling her field of vision. It displayed a group of typical computer operating system icons and folders. The system was named Micronics. Below it, a second item with Ashley's full name, Ashley Aaron Fox. Ash focused on the icon above her name and found that it contained several common computer folders, applications, contacts, documents, networks, utilities. The folder for applications opened, and it was filled with basic skills: memory, comprehension, mathematics, reasoning. She opened contacts, and a box headed with the words Micronics Opsis opened and flashed, importing contacts. Ashley felt a sharp twinge throughout her head and discovered 4 subgroups on the screen: family, friends, classmates, and acquaintances. Ashley backed out a level and opened the object named Networks. A box headed with available networks opened, listing several. She clicked on the top, a 10-digit number. The phone in her pocket rang. She fished it out and answered it. An ear-splitting feedback loop erupted over the phone in Ashley's voice box. She screamed, threw the phone along with the device, and collapsed. Jeff had realized what was happening when the phone rang, a moment too late. He jumped up and rushed over to his sister. She was out cold. "Oh my God, Ashley, are you okay?" Jeff listened to her heart. She was still breathing, and despite her being unconscious, she seemed okay. "Holy shit," Jeff said to no one. He retrieved the amplifier and the phone, setting them on the table. Monday night, July 27th, 2308. Croswell, Ross, and King hung in the air over Angel City. "So what's the story on the ID package?" Ross asked Croswell. "It's almost done. I checked on it just before coming out today." "What could possibly be the holdup?" Ross asked. "I needed to get photos of the kids," Croswell answered. "Faster, Mr. Secretary," Ross teased. "That's what she said," King and Croswell said together, laughing. "Is she coming, by the by?" King asked. "She is. She'll be here," Ross replied. "We can catch her up easy enough," Croswell said. "Here's the deal." Stanwood finally melted down and went to Miller, who also proceeded to melt down. They considered hanging Miller out as bait for us, but settled on reactivating the wolf pack. "Did I hear that right?" Captain Snow asked, approaching from the west. "Be careful what you wish for, huh?" "Understatement of the year," King said, raising his hand in acknowledgement. "How are the kids?" Anna asked Ross. "They're fine. Fifth wall intact," Ross answered. "I made them pancakes. Reed's on Overwatch." "So," King said, "real question is, did Miller leave his office stained and dirty on purpose, or is he actually that stupid?" "Oh, he's that stupid," Croswell answered. "The guy's a goddamn idiot. No contest." "Wolf pack, huh? They are serious," Snow said. "You ready for the good part?" Croswell asked. "You know why we haven't been able to find them all this time?" "Spill it," King said. "They're hiding on an orphanage." "What?" Ross exclaimed. "No." Snow was shocked. 8 years, near as we can figure, ever since San Diego. Not all of them, but a few at least. And Dunkirk, he'd worked with Bergstrom before Wolfpack. We suspected him, but we didn't have anything solid. "Whatever," Anna said. "I can't believe he got the drop on you like that," King laughed. "He didn't get the drop on me," Anna said. "Well, what do you call it?" King smiled. "You want to know what I call it? What I call all of this?" Anna waved her hand in a circle through the air between them. "Do you honestly think I'm this stupid? Fox put up a firewall, didn't he? I've been noticing little things. She knew things I didn't. Sometimes little bits and pieces slipped through. But now, you tell me Fox's archenemy happens to be hiding out on an orphanage 3 days after he makes his kids orphans? What kind of idiot do you take me for?" Snow asked. "What are you suggesting?" Croswell asked. "I'm suggesting that we're going to fly over there and realize Bergstrom has dug himself in so well that we'd have to blow up the entire district just to get him to stick his head out. Or we can wait and let the wolf pack come to us while all our centaurs are in orbit. You all know we're never going to get them here in time, and we sure as heck couldn't hide them." "It's worse than that," Croswell said. "When Fox met with Conway, he arranged to put the centaurs to work, mining the hammered bracelet." "Oh, thank you very much. So we've got a real bad guy on an orphanage exploiting children. Let's send in Astral. Why don't we just nuke it?" "I've got news for you. You're not doing it. She's 12, for Christ's sake. You can't send her into an urban orphanage. She's a goddamn ballerina. She has like 3 weeks of some lame-ass kung fu camp for experience. If I ever find out that any of you had any part in this, I swear I will never forgive you." Croswell held up his hands. "Anna, none of us knew. I don't think even Fox knew. He never would have sent the tanks into deep space otherwise. I'm sure of that much at least." "You're not sure of anything, James. You can't send a Centaur cyber tank into an orphanage. That's why he's there in the first place. I will not tolerate Ashley and Jeff going in there. That is not happening. It's not even on the table. Do you understand me? Snow looked back and forth from the eyes of the men before her. Croswell nodded. You have my word. Then let's hear your plan, Snow said. I want to put you three on a rotating post on this orphanage to see if Stanwood or Von Kalt show up. No one objected. And we have confirmed that Von Kalt has the amplifier he took off Fox when he arrested him. So even though we managed to clean out all the labs and send them on a wild goose chase, they've had it the whole time. And what does Ashley have? Ross asked. Ashley has the original. Von Kalt got what remained of Epsilon. Apparently it was left at ground zero. I confirmed with Carlson up on Kojima. The doctor retrieved it. This gets better by the minute, Anna said. Our only saving grace is that Von Kalt is at least semi-retarded, or we would have figured out how to use it by now. Croswell nodded to King. King explained. This ass-clown hasn't activated a single filter or effect. He's satisfied with digital augmentation and basic intrusion. He walked one of the wire mercs off a balcony, but mostly he's reserved himself to the net. He's a kid in a candy store, with no concept that Daddy's account will also buy power tools and guns, if he wanted. Croswell nodded. I was going to put the three of you on it, but I think instead, Anna, I'd like you to take a permanent position over St. Vincent's. Take a trailer and anchor it close enough, but not too close. You guys go out to this orphanage, D13, and do the same thing. I'm going to visit Stanwood and see if I can get him to reconsider all this nonsense. Ready, break, King said, laughing. Chapter 52, Contingencies. Ashley's Journal, Monday afternoon, July 27th, 2308. That was pretty weird. I realized what I'd done even as I was doing it. It looked like Jeff did too. It felt like I was plugging a fork into an electrical socket, only the phone was the fork and my brain was the socket. I'm not too thrilled with this little toy. When I woke up, I was alone. I found Jeff upstairs in the kitchen, finishing off the rest of the pancakes. At least he's eating. I can't believe our parents are gone. We don't even talk about it. He seems okay. Told him I was not happy about getting my brain fried, and he actually laughed. The rest of the afternoon went pretty fast. It's already dark. Jeff spent the day in my chronics land while I did a complete second session. I stretched again and did my full practice. We watched a movie and napped. It was lame, some secret agent chasing some superweapon. No wonder my dreams are all messed up. There was that cable full of knots that hurt to look at. It's made of light and everything else is in complete darkness. That's what I get for sleeping in the middle of the day, as Mom would say. It's after 9 and Ross still hasn't returned. I cooked frozen pizza. I haven't touched the micronics or the phone since this morning. They're sitting right where Jeff left them. He seems to have no difficulty accessing it without holding it. I have zero interest in exploring the cyberverse as represented by that black tool of vengeance. To me it's a knife, maybe a bit more fancy, but still and primarily a knife for cutting. Midnight, late Monday, early Tuesday, July 28th, 2308. Inside the surveillance trailer, Ross and King sat before panels of spectrometers and scanners. King tapped on Ross's arm as a cruiser approached the district. Ross magnified the image of the cruiser's cockpit. Sure enough, it was Stanwood and Von Kalt. I'm going, King said. Go, Ross replied. I'm going to call the secretary. Patch me in, King said as he triggered the hatch. I'm guessing you never got that meeting. King activated his phase cam and vanished before he stepped out of the trailer. The hatch closed and Ross was alone. Mr. Secretary, he said as the communications terminal came online. Croswell had given up his battle armor for the more conventional uniform of a three-piece double-breasted Terrellium weave suit and tie. What have you got, Major? First Sergeant is inbound on our tangos. Let me patch him in. Ross looped in King's codec. He accepted the link. A third window appeared on Ross's terminal as King patched in his helmet camera. First Sergeant? Croswell asked. Yes, sir, King answered without actually speaking. King had entered the expansive parking structure. He slowly approached the government vehicle from just a couple feet above walking height. On the screen, Stanwood and Von Kalt had just docked and were exiting the vehicle. King stayed with them, and by proxy so did Ross and Croswell. The pair were amazed. The massive First Sergeant moved himself into tiny spaces and flawlessly stayed with his prey. He never made a sound. never obstructed an elbow or a knee. Majestic. In just a few minutes, King had followed Stanwood and Von Kalt and gained access as they were greeted by Bergstrom's staff and led to his not-so-impenetrable lair. While waiting in the antechamber, King inquired as to the firing parameters, and Croswell replied, "Under no circumstances. This is reconnaissance only." "Understood," King replied, sounding every bit like a sullen teenager who's just been told he cannot throw a party while his parents are out for the evening. Finally, Stanwood, Von Kalt, and the unseen spectre hanging over their shoulders were ushered into a massive hall. The room looked as though it hadn't been used in a considerable length of time. Cedric entered from behind and hit the light switches. Stanwood and Von Kalt turned on their heels, while King quickly went inverted. In his trailer, Ross activated the image compensator and rotated the signal back to something not so nausea-inducing. "Intelligence Director Stanwood, I presume." A rather small man, Dr. Bergstrom, walked toward them and extended his hand to Stanwood, completely ignoring Von Kalt, but only for a moment. Even before he reached Stanwood, his attention turned to Von Kalt and he came to a dead stop. "Who are you?" Bergstrom asked. Before Von Kalt could answer, Bergstrom screamed, "No, I don't want to know. Don't tell me." Bergstrom turned to Stanwood. "Please ask him to wait outside." "What?" Stanwood asked. "Ask him to wait outside, please." Stanwood nodded to Von Kalt, who pursed his lips, but turned and left the hall without a word. "Back to the goddamn car, please," Bergstrom yelled after him. King righted himself, hanging behind the intelligence director, just a few inches off the floor. "So?" Stanwood said. Ross had returned his monitor to the natural setting once King had tired of his handstand. Now he and Croswell watched as King practiced his silent draw. The first sergeant smoothly but silently drew his sidearm and took a beat on the back of Stanwood's skull, over and over again. Finally Croswell spoke up. "Knock it off, Steve." King laughed over their thought link, but remained silent as Bergstrom and Stanwood had their little stare down. "It's clear Fox's technology's made its way to you, so you should understand my commitment to this sentiment when I tell you you have to give to get. Now don't waste my time." "What's your price?" Stanwood asked. "Your partner is carrying one of Fox's amplifiers." "It's his funeral," Stanwood said. "I'm glad we understand each other." Bergstrom looked into Stanwood's eyes. "You've never been exposed." "Do you think I'd be here now if I had been?" "I wasn't asking. It's a statement. I can tell just looking at you. You know what else I can tell? You've never pulled the trigger." "What?" Stanwood asked. "Even during your practical you didn't, did you?" "It wasn't like that," Stanwood said. "Like what? Explain to me how it is the Director of National Intelligence has never pulled the trigger. I'll tell you what. You convince me how you got out of the practical and I'll hear you out about the rest of this nonsense," Cedric said. "I've never told anyone about this, but I knew her. It was a girl I went to school with. She'd been out drinking and got into an accident. The other driver died. She was just a young mom. It shouldn't have been a capital case except the car had been reported stolen. Jessica didn't know. It belonged to the boyfriend of one of the other girls, and they'd taken it without saying anything. He'd called the cops before he realized that the girls were just out on a liquor run. They arrested her for a homicide committed in the commission of a felony. It was an open and shut case. They returned a unanimous guilty verdict, and she was remanded to the Hall of Justice. I didn't even know she was going to be there. I swore my oath of allegiance, served on my first jury, and marched over to the handgun training course. I went in there totally committed to executing a convict. I'd already been accepted into the officers program at Williamsburg, so going into the practical I had my mind made up. I was going to collect my executioner's fee and spend it getting drunk as hell. Instead, I walked in and saw Jessica. She recognized me and started crying. I already had the Light 9 in my hand. I hadn't charged it, but I was holding it. I moved to walk past her and she called my name. I didn't even think she knew my name. I don't think she'd ever said it before. She cried, "Joseph, no." I looked over to her and I couldn't leave. She was sobbing. I think I had been in love with this girl forever, but nothing ever came of it. She liked this other guy in my class. Anyhow, as I walked up to her, I realized I was holding the gun. I holstered it, slid my newly minted ID through the slot, and hit that big green clemency button. She thanked me about 1,000 times, but I never said a word. She got carted off for a life of hard labor on the farms, but it beats a bullet in the head. I couldn't let that happen to her. You could see all the closed tubes, The opaque frosted panels with the darkness splashed across it were just dark inside. I remember when we left, it was my dad who sponsored me, and as we left he was crying. He was really impressed. We were always close after that. I didn't see that coming either. Anyhow, I just put a bullet through the head of that guy Jessica liked more than me. A guy I've known all my life. Don't tell me you know anything about me pulling a trigger. Because right now, if you don't help me find this man's children, you're going to be the next person I put a bullet into. Who might this man be? Miller mentioned something about enemies of enemies and new friends, Bergstrom asked. His name is Andrew Fox. And then his children. A daughter named Astral? Ashley. That's pretty close. I know you know about Fox. I know you've had dealings with him before. You don't know anything, son. I know that I killed him, and I know that I can kill you. And why come to me? She's a 12-year-old girl. Why can't you handle her? Are you an idiot? What's your problem? Dr. Bergstrom, when Senator Miller approved your Wolfpack program, I was his associate. I wrote all his correspondence. His fingers never even touched a keyboard while I worked for him. I am now the Director of National Intelligence. I know everything there is to know about you. You are going to help me or I will dismantle your life, one locked door at a time. You know everything, huh? Tell me something. Did you watch the 3 a.m. trials? Did you see what she did to those soldiers? She wasn't much older than 12 when she did that. What do you know about it? Stanwood asked. Enough to know better than to even try and help you. I mean, that was a cute story. And now that I heard you out with your silly little threat there at the end, you'd better have something of equal or greater value if you want to access the wolves. Dr. Bergstrom had approached a second set of switches and now illuminated the rest of the massive hall. Almost a dozen massive cyber suits stood in various stages of completion. Only about half of them are operational, but if you've got to crack an especially hard nut, this is the tool that you want. Name your price, Stanwood said. My price? My conditions are that I want a support squad for every suit we activate. These things look tough. Concentrated fire is a problem for anyone, so I want a squad of bullet catchers for support and distraction on any incursion into enemy territory. Second, I have a question. What is preventing the return of Fox's Centaur cyber tanks? They're locked out of orbit. We have a magnetic quarantine in place. If they tried to get in, we would know, and we'll stop them. It was the mandate that won Conway the election. Cedric raised a hand. So then we are going up against the Black Willow gun trees. We can only go in force, meaning when it comes to the Wolfpack, I only have 4 pilots. That means you and your asshat out there in the car will have to pilot 2 of the other suits. I'm not sending 4 if it could be 6. If you want this, you must take it yourself. Do we need training? Stanwood asked. You'll learn fast or you'll die, Cedric smiled. Encouraging. Now my price. Cedric raised his hand. You said children, plural? Yes, a boy and a girl, Stanwood answered. My price then, dead or alive, I want significant access to their DNA, and dead or alive, I want the girl. That's all? Stanwood asked, shocked and astonished. That is all, Bergstrom answered. Fine, you have a deal, Doctor. Stanwood realized he actually didn't care. Suddenly the entire adventure had lost its allure. Stanwood didn't want to have anything to do with Bergstrom. He felt dirty just standing in the man's presence. He'd agree to anything just to leave. How soon can we get started? Stanwood asked. I need 48 hours more or less, Bergstrom replied. That's fine. I've hardly slept in 3 days. Filled with revulsion, Stanwood handed Bergstrom his card. I'll be expecting your call. King was invisibly holding his weapon on the 2 men and switching his aim from one to the next and back again. Croswell interrupted him. First Sergeant, I want you to follow the director back to his car and spray everything you see along the way with microtransmitters. Acknowledge? Copy, yes, sir, King replied over the thought link and holstered his pistol to pull out the aforementioned transmitter spray. Chapter 53. Active Missions. Tuesday morning, July 28th, 2308. At 4 in the morning, Ashley's phone went off. She answered, still groggy with sleep. Ross's voice came both over the phone and from right outside the door. Time to get up. I want you and the little guy dressed and up in the kitchen in 5 minutes. A few minutes more than 5 minutes later, Ashley and Jeff walked down the maintenance hall toward the kitchen. The lights were still off, and no light came in from behind the pulled shades and blinds. Ross met the children halfway to their destination. First things first. Ashley's journal. After early morning patrols, we had breakfast and talked about ways to improve security. Ross had all the answers, but he wanted us thinking about it. We discussed the finer points of distributing weapons, ammunition, and first aid supplies, and where they would do the most good. He explained that you always had to think about fortifying your base, as if you were less than 6 hours from an actual attack. Where would you want weapons and ammo stashed during a firefight? It's a bit of a tie, actually, between the bathroom and the kitchen, he said. The bathroom has a reinforced tub and a window you can occasionally escape through, but it's also called a kill box for a reason. The micro-transmitters Croswell had sprayed at Stanwood's home informed the secretary that Stanwood had finally returned for the first time since shooting Fox. In full battle armor, Croswell arrived at Stanwood's residence. Hovering overhead, he performed an intimate scan. He read the security entries in the residential event logs. Stanwood had opened the fridge, taken nothing out, proceeded to go to the bathroom where he relieved himself, showered, and was now asleep in his bed. Von Kahl was nowhere to be seen. Secretary Croswell, having already hacked the rudimentary security system, instructed it to open the patio door as he arrived. It closed a moment later, after Croswell had invisibly entered, having made zero contact with the domicile. The secretary checked Stanwood's room to be sure it was actually him and that he hadn't been somehow duped. It was indeed the intelligence director, whom Jim had known since grammar school, lying fast asleep. Croswell drifted into the living room and fixed himself a drink. He was in no hurry. As long as Stanwood was here, there was little possibility that he was piloting a war machine at the same time. The secretary relayed his location to the other members of the team. First Sergeant King acknowledged from his place above the orphanage, as did Captain Snow from her monitoring station above St. Vincent's. Ashley took notes in her journal as Ross spoke. There's almost never a way out, plus lots of tile and glass. So where bathrooms are concerned, if you don't know ahead of time, avoid it. The kitchen is better for hiding weapons and ammo. There's usually a back door, but it's mostly open and indefensible. They will believe that our transportation is out in the garage, making that a definite target. So that will be the first thing they go after, Jeff said. Exactly right. They'll try to disable any escape, Ross said. So they'll be watching the other exits too, right? Ashley asked. Yes. We've got 2 sets of bad guys to worry about. Those with limited budgets and exposure, and those without limits. That means the people who want to keep their activity a secret, and those who can send 40 agents after us. They're going to keep looking for us as long as we have this. Ashley pulled out the black rectangle and set it next to the maps. Ross smiled. Despite how valuable it is, it's just a piece of hardware. They want you. Loose ends. We're just loose ends, Ashley said. You're not just anything. They want me, Mr. Reed, and a couple other guys. We're loose ends. You are about profit and power. We stay together, we stay alive, we go to Canada, Ross said. I don't want to run. I don't want to go anywhere. I want my old life back, and I want them dead, Ash said, coldly. Both Jeff and Ross remained silent for a few moments. In the trash cans, Jeffrey said. Under the garbage bags. What? In the bathrooms. That's where we put the guns. Jeff smiled. Ross nodded and smiled. I've mapped out the best escape routes. He laid out some local maps, showing the nearby streets and buildings. There's a 24-hour public parking structure here. If you have to detonate this place, go there. Ross pointed to a square 4 blocks from their location. And another one here. He pointed to a second location on the other side of the map. Whichever direction you find yourselves going, just go. You can get to either of them almost unseen by taking this street and this alley here. Ross laid out a trail with his finger on the map. Traced it yesterday. Once you get there, in each garage is a black transport. Ditch the sedan. Ross handed them an electric key. Hit the button and the closest one will come to you. We're going to be the Roberts family. Ashley, your new name is Aaron. Jeff, you're Michael Jr., and I am Michael Sr. Once we're over the border, we pick up a second set. All we have to do is get there. Did you get a chance to check the security footage at our house? Ashley asked. I checked. The house looked secure, but I spotted 3 roving patrols and 2 stationary units. It was too dangerous to go inside. We should just go after them, find out who they're working for. It's not that easy. We can't let them get away with it, Ashley argued. They already did, Ross said. What's the point of learning how to fight and fortify your base if you're just going to run all the time? Ashley asked. You're too young, Ross said. They know you're helping us. They're going to have the borders covered. They won't be expecting us to attack. They will destroy any evidence we don't already have. As much as we may want this, we don't have the resources. I'm not leaving. Ashley was serious. Jeff looked at her, shocked. I'm going after them. My father was a good person. He never hurt anyone, and our mom was super nice. They killed her, and I'm not just going to run away and forget. I'm going to find out who did this, and I'm going to stop them. Jeff and Ross were both quiet in the wake of her determination. Finally, Ross spoke. We still have some time, and we need to be prepared to escape at any moment. But there is such a thing as overwhelming firepower, and the odds are against us. Maybe we could use the micronics to get the footage, Jeff suggested. We just need to get somewhere with better coverage. There's not enough bandwidth out here for me. We need to set a trap, catch someone who knows something and make an example out of him, Ash said. If they're staking out our house, then let's grab one of them. I'll make him talk. You don't have to do anything. Ashley was dead serious. For one, you are insane. For two, too many things can go wrong. There's too few of me here to try that. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but you're still kids. Maybe we'll try Jeff's plan tomorrow. Maybe. End of discussion, Ross said. Chapter 54, Payback. Tuesday, July 28th, 2308. Secretary Croswell, lounging on Stanwood's couch, used his Micronics amplifier to handle the digital day-to-day requirements of his office. He was caught up before lunch and spent the afternoon getting a jump on tomorrow. His helmet sat on the coffee table. His battle suit supplied all the nutrition he needed in the form of Dr. Fox's super blue healing goo. Between panels, Croswell carried more than 2 gallons of the thick syrup. The noontime injections in each hip surprised him, but as the goo replaced the sensation of pain with one of pleasure, after a few moments, only the fading adrenaline dump caused by the initial shock remained. Croswell heard Stanwood begin to stir in the late afternoon. At 6, another injection would be triggered, unless he'd settled this dispute and gotten out of the damn suit. Frustrated and angry, Croswell rose from the couch. He had long since turned off the phase shift camouflage. If Stanwood had awakened, he'd have seen him, but that was the whole idea. Croswell walked to the doorway between the elite shelf living room and bedroom. Stanwood was half awake and sat up, shocked to see Croswell standing there. James? Without any warning, Croswell discovered he was furious. He'd known Joe Stanwood almost all his life, and Joe Stanwood had shot his friend, their friend, Andy Fox, who created the blue goo that had healed Wendell's smashed knee. Without any sort of pause, before Stanwood could speak, Croswell drew his weapon and fired. He didn't fire just once or twice. Croswell shot Stanwood at least a dozen times. Then he stepped onto the blood-splattered sheets and blankets and grabbed Stanwood by the neck. The intelligence director choked and coughed, gasping for air through his ruined lungs and esophagus. Croswell unsnapped one of the hoses to the reservoir on his back. He smiled and sprayed Stanwood with the blue goo. You didn't have the balls to try this when we were kids, Joey, so here you go. Croswell could see the goo stitching Stanwood's splattered organs and bone back together. He knew firsthand how painful the process actually was. Stanwood tried to scream, but couldn't, as he could hardly breathe. Croswell held his old friend in a crushing vice, with his armored hand on Stanwood's throat. After a few minutes, it was clear that Stanwood was breathing properly. I missed your heart. I can do better than that. Stanwood tried to raise his hands. Jim, listen. Listen to what? You shot Andy. Croswell held the barrel of his weapon on the soft spot beneath Stanwood's ribcage and fired 3 more times. Croswell's face was right in front of Stanwood's. How do you like that? Stanwood began to gag and sputter. It was clear he was dying. Croswell rose from the bed and doused Stanwood's ruined midsection with another liberal helping of the healing blue syrup. The intelligence director would survive. He'd probably be in even better shape than before Croswell had shot him. Stanwood convulsed as the polysynthetic nanostem cells did their work. He coughed up a considerable volume of the blue-tinted blood and bullets. "You've still got a pretty high concentration of syrup in you there, Joey. I think you can take a couple more. What do you think?" pointing the handgun at his abdomen. No more," Stanwood pleaded. "Yeah, well, screw what you think." Croswell aimed at Stanwood's knee. "You pushed Wendell into the pool, didn't you?" "No, I swear." Croswell put 2 rounds through Stanwood's knee. Stanwood screamed and cried, holding his shattered knee in his ruptured guts. Croswell stepped away from the bed and reattached the tube to his reservoir tank. "If I were you, I'd try and spit some of that syrup onto your knee, 'cause I'm not giving you any more. And I'd bet you, being the shitbird you are, my money says you don't even have an emergency pack stashed around here somewhere. Don't take that crap they give you at the emergency room. It's watered down to nothing. Hell, you should call your little buddy Cedric. He's got his own version of the stuff. But be careful. I've heard his grape mix doesn't go down well with Fox's blue nectar. This stuff has a tendency to turn hostile against competitive nano products." Croswell pulled out his phone. "Now shut up for a second. I need to make a call." Stanwood actually tried to silence his pain-filled whimpering, but could only reduce the volume slightly. "Kelly, hey, it's Jim. I'm over here at our friend Joe's place. We've reached an understanding." Croswell looked over at Stanwood. "He's going to take a step back and drop this case. After all, he has plenty of real work that needs doing, don't you?" Stanwood nodded. "So you guys are okay. Nothing to worry about anymore. Isn't that right, Director?" Croswell held the phone out towards Stanwood, who whimpered and cried, "Yes, yes." Croswell returned the phone to his ear and listened for a moment. "Yes, of course." He picked up his helmet and walked toward the front door. "Bring them directly to you. But don't you think it would be better if we didn't need to go that route?" Croswell listened for a moment more and then said, "No, it's just that coming back will be so much more difficult. You know that." "Okay, I'll talk to you in a bit." He disconnected and turned back towards Stanwood. Croswell gave the suffering director the finger and said, "Don't even think about teaming up with Bergstrom. If you go anywhere near D13 again, President's nephew or not, I will put a bullet in your head." Croswell walked towards Stanwood again, stopping at the end of the bed. "I want you to listen to me very carefully, Joe. We've known each other a long time, and I've never bullshitted you, or bullshit you, or whatever. My point is, it's time for you to resign. If you don't, President Conway's going to have to hold his sister's hand at your funeral. Are you hearing me? Over all that whimpering you're doing over there?" Croswell drew his weapon and fired a single shot, destroying the director's personal phone. He then put a round through every terminal monitor in the condo. "Just in case I was less than clear, get the hell out of Angel City, shitbag." Croswell exited through the front door, donned his helmet in the open courtyard, and vanished into the darkening sky.